The MLB season starts in just 2 days. 2 days. It's absolutely crazy. And on today's episode of Inside the Zone with Mateo, it's time. It's time for my 2026 MLB season predictions. Let's roll the intro. Let's get underway. Everybody, welcome back to another edition of Inside the Twins here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. Don't know why the thumbnail isn't next to the thanks for watching page here if you're watching me on on a YouTube or anything like that. It should be there. I think I put it there. Maybe it didn't save. I don't know. But, luckily we're just not going to spend a lot of time here on this screen. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you guys clicking on this video. And yeah, Inside the Twins here is basically our baseball podcast within our full podcast here on YouTube and Spotify. If you aren't following us on either of those or both of those platforms, go ahead and give us a follow or subscribe on those respected platforms. Let's just get it right into it, guys. It's really self-explanatory. We're basically what we're doing today here. I mean, from the thumbnail, you could tell basically what we're doing. It's MLB season predictions, and I don't think it's, really has anything, that we really have to explain. So without further ado, basically all we're doing, we're looking, I'm going to give you my MLB season predictions for 2026 because the season starts in just 2 days. But before we do so, I just would like to, give you kind of a little schedule here because it's a little different for this last week of March. For opening week 2026, yes, Tuesday here today, 2026 MLB predictions. And then tomorrow, yes, we're going to have a special edition episode on Wednesday, which will be my fantasy baseball draft. And then Thursday, opening day, I will be live for the Twins' first game of the season, at the Baltimore Orioles. It will include some pregame, I think about 30-ish minutes before first pitch. It will also include post-game coverage, live play-by-play reaction. It's going to be an epic stream on there on Thursday. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and turn those notification bells on so you never ever miss any of these episodes. And now, without further ado, we're going to start in the AL. We're going to start with, in my opinion, the best division out there. The division that I think is going to have the most competition, and that's the AL East. And here are my AL East predictions here. Starting at 1, winning the AL East, I have the Boston Red Sox at 95-67. That I have them winning actually 6 more games than last season. At second, it's the defending AL champions, the Toronto Blue Jays at 92-70. I actually have them losing 2 less games than last season. You got the New York Yankees coming in at third. You have to have them win at least 90 games. I think they're a really good regular season team. So is Aaron Judge. We'll see, though. I don't know. We'll talk about playoffs in a little bit. But 90-72, I have them losing 4 more games than last season. I think they are a little less talented, a little less stacked, if you will. And I really, we're going to take a look. We will take a look at, what these teams did in the offseason. I'm just kind of starting with what my record predictions are for them, and then we'll talk a little bit more in depth about them. I have the Orioles winning 10 more games than last season, but still only good enough for 4th place in this tough division. I have them winning 85 games and 77 losses. And then the Tampa Bay Rays coming in last in this division at 78-84. I have them winning 1 additional game than last season. So there are my AL East predictions. Let me know your guys' thoughts of all these predictions in the comments down below. And let's start with the Boston Red Sox here. It's going to be I'm going to try to go pretty quickly through these. We're just going to basically look at the final 2026 offseason grades for all MLB teams according to ESPN, and then just kind of highlight the here's the article if you don't know what it is here on ESPN. When did this come out? I think came out a couple weeks ago. It came out February 18th, actually. So it was actually quite a bit ago, but all the major free agents were signed after this. So it's just kind of an idea to kind of get introduced to all these new MLB teams. Of course, this might be a little shorter of an episode than normal. We normally have like about an hour episode. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I'm thinking it's going to be more of a 30 to 40 minute episode rather than 40 to an hour. But we'll see. I like to yap. So yeah, final 2026 offseason grades for all 30 MLB teams. And, the Boston Red Sox, I mean, you got to say something here because they're on the top of this list. They are on the top of this list here for ESPN. They were given an A grade here. They brought in left-hand pitcher Ranger Suarez, right-hand pitcher Sonny Gray, first baseman Wilson Contreras, Johan Oviedo from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They brought in third baseman Caleb Durbin, infielder Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and then infielder Andrew Montestero. But something here and that I'd like, the thing that comes to my mind here that brings me a lot of attention is Ranger Suarez and Sonny Gray, as well as I guess Wilson Contreras. But for a team that was pretty good last season, I mean, by all means, I'm gonna pull up these standings from last season. They were pretty competitive. Sure, they were missing a couple pieces. And I just think they fixed a lot of their rotation, which was a big part of the problem. So I ultimately think this is going to be a great year. I mean, they were 89 and 73 last season here. You can take a look. Let me zoom in a little bit for this one, just so you guys can see this. There we go. Perfect. As you can see, the Boston Red Sox, 89 wins, 73 losses. They ended up 5 games back of the Yankees and the Blue Jays, and I do think, though, they're going to overtake them for the best team in this division. Let's see if there's any interesting here. Any runs scored. I mean, they scored the third most runs in their division here. They gave up way less. So, I mean, they had a really good run differential. That was a plus. Yeah, I mean, they had a better run differential than the Toronto Blue Jays. And I think that should be even better because they brought in tons of pitchers. There were rumors also to bring in Minnesota Twins pitcher Joe Ryan. Maybe that happened still at the trade deadline. They were not great. They were not great at home at all. Sorry, away, but they were great at home. And I think, the green wall has a lot to do with that, of course. But, under 500 teams, that's going to be the area that they're going to have to, for sure, get better and grow in that. And I do think with that pitching, it should help them a lot. And I'm just really excited about this team. I think, that plus 110 run differential should be probably closer to what we saw the Yankees do last season. They were 164. I think we could even see them. I could see them having a plus 175 run differential if everything holds to be. I mean, you're now going to hopefully, all your pitchers stay healthy now. But then also, I mean, you bring in a guy like Wilson Contreras, a really good veteran. He's going to most likely replace Alex Bregman, who was kind of their only real major key departure. I mean, you can read the other guys who they lost if you were a Boston Red Sox fan. I'm sure you know that. But overall, I mean, the Red Sox, sure, they got an A grade in free agency, and I think that deserves it. I would maybe put it down to a B plus because they didn't really grab a superstar. But I think Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray for sure are for sure two elite arms that will add to their starting pitching. And I just am really looking forward to watch them play, and I think they're going to have a really good season. As I said, I had them winning 95 games, so that's really good. I do think it could be anywhere between 90 and 95. I could see them falling down to 90 wins. But I think in general for this, I like to be a little more bold as well. So that's going to be a common theme as we progress throughout these predictions, just because I like to be it's 162 games too. It's super hard to totally see how well you did. I wanted to look, speaking of this, I wanted to see, because I know I did a reaction kind of to my before the year predictions from last year, recently towards when we wrapped up the season. Let me see if I can find that. Was it? I think it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, it was over here. So I'll take a look. Maybe I'll find that in a little bit later. Let's continue, and then yeah, maybe we'll take a look and just for context, maybe we'll wrap the episode with that. We'll wrap up the episode with that. How about that? We'll do that for sure. But at second place, as you already knew, we had the oh gosh, we're hold up. Pardon for your. We had the Toronto Blue Jays. So let's find these Blue Jays here. Toronto Blue Jays. They got a B plus rating from ESPN. And this one I didn't totally agree with necessarily, but the key additions they got Dylan Cease, they got Tyler Rogers, and some other guys. But the main thing here is Dylan Cease. They did lose Bo Bichette, they did lose Chris Bassett, they did lose Max Scherzer. But in my opinion here, they didn't really lose as much as they could have for a team that had just made it to the World Series and really competed with the Los Angeles Dodgers, in 7 complete hard-fought games, ultimately losing. But Dylan Cease is kind of that person they were missing. They need an ace pitcher. They were kind of missing that all playoffs, and really they had great regular season success. As you can see, I mean, they even won their division here. They won 94 games last season. They didn't have the best differential, and I do think that has a lot to say with the pitching. As you can see with a team like the Orioles, minus 111, the pitching was a big problem. If you could score runs, that's great, but if you're giving up a lot of runs, that's a big problem. It's only a plus 77 run differential. That's, it's really surprising. They really shocked the world when they made the World Series against the Dodgers and really competed in 7 hard-fought games. Including some, that 18 inning game that was insane. But yeah, so they won 94 games, but I do think, I could see a way where they win 94 games, but you got to highlight they lost Bo Bichette, they lost Chris Bassett, they lost Max Scherzer, they did lose a lot, and I do think that's why this grade isn't higher because they did lose a little bit for sure. But I think Dylan Cease is going to be such a good addition for this team that they're going to, not drop too far down in what am I saying in the standings wise here, right? I think they're gonna stay, in the top 2 for sure. I could even see them going back, but for the sake of this not power ranking, but prediction, I'm gonna have them only win, I think 92 games, dude. Was it 92 games? Yes, it was 92 games. There we go. Perfect. Oh, whoa, chill. And yeah, so it was 92. Okay, cool. So it was 92 games. So I had them going 92 and 70. That was 2 less games than last season. But yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I'm showing here Shane Bieber. He's still here. He's not going to be ready for opening day. But he's still going to be a good addition to this team. Anthony Santander will sit out 5 to 6 months. Intriguing for sure. But yeah, they got Jesus Sanchez as well. I think, they're talking about here the Cy Young Award. I think Dylan Cease could be somebody that you could honorable mention, who could maybe try to, if he has a good season, possibly be in that conversation. I think, he's now gonna, he used to be in San Diego. Now he's over here in Toronto. So he really goes coast to coast. And I'm just going to be, really interested to see what the defending AL champions do just because. Oh, and by the way, I just want to show you guys. Never mind. What am I saying? I'm yapping too much. But anyway, Toronto Blue Jays, 92 and 70. Again, here are the standings. Again, I don't know why when I share the screen it goes that white thing. I don't know. But the next team we're going to talk about here, the New York Yankees, who I got a little bit of stuff to talk about there. Here, I have them winning 90 and 72 games. I have them going 90 and 72. They lose 4 games more than they did last season. They won 94 games. If we, again, take a look at these standings, from last season. They were really tied. It just the Blue Jays had the tiebreaker. They would have gotten a bye, but ultimately they had to play in the first round. And did they even? I feel like they got first rounded, or if not second round, maybe second rounded. I'm not quite sure. They were 9-1 in their last 10. I mean, there was a team. If there was a team that deserved to win this division, it was the Yankees. They finished the season real strong on an 8-game winning streak. They scored the most runs by far. They scored nearly 850 runs by only giving up 685. And they're just a really good regular season team. And when I say regular season, it has to fall on to Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge performs and continues to perform at a MVP level continues to perform on an MVP level. But then when the playoffs come, I just have a lot of question marks. He hasn't looked great he didn't look great at the WBC. I still think they're a really good team, and Yankee fans don't throw me off. Don't, yell at me for this, but I still have you guys winning 90 games. And if you see, what record I give my Minnesota Twins in a little bit, that's really nice. Okay. And it's not that I hate the Yankees. I mean, I do dislike the Yankees a lot, but doesn't everybody who's not a Yankee fan? And I think this is really it's a fair prediction, I think. I think 90 wins, they could go over that. They could maybe finish a little bit under that. But for now, that's kind of where I have them being. They did not have a great rating on ESPN here. They had a C plus. They just re-signed a bunch of players. Their only real person they got was Ryan Weathers, a left-hand pitcher. They lost Devin Williams. But in general, it's essentially, as they say, the same roster that lost in the ALDS to the Blue Jays. But I mean, I guess we do got to remember here that they did make a lot of trade deadline moves. So, yeah, Ryan McMahon, Jose Calabero, David Bednar, all of these guys are going to now get a full season as the Yankees went 34-19. I did want to mention that here over that final 2 months with this new roster. That was a 104 win pace. So, they could do that. I'm just going to play a little bit on the safer side here. I'm not totally, Garrett Cole's going to finally come back, I'm pretty sure, after missing that season with Tommy John. But in general, I think they should, they're the Yankees. They're going to still, remain in contention, in World Series contention talks. I think they're definitely a big threat in this AL. But again, this AL East is just a really good division. And so with that all being said, they end up, even if they win 90 games, which would probably win a lot of these divisions, I still have them third. And that's just kind of what I'm going to say here. I could talk about Aaron Judge a little bit more if I'd like to, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the Baltimore Orioles, the team that actually your Minnesota Twins are going to be playing here in opening day. They had a very interesting season last season. They really struggled with injuries. They had really no pitching at all. However, they're still a really good team. And they brought in a couple key figures that I'm going to be really excited to watch. I have them going 85-77. I just said, yes, they're going to win 10 more games than last season. I know that could be a hot take, but the Baltimore Orioles bring in guys like Pete Alonso, Taylor Ward, Shane Baz, Chris Bassett. They re-sign Zach Eflin. They bring in Ryan Hesley. They bring in Andrew Kitteridge, and also Blaze Alexander. By the way, they don't lose anybody except Grayson Rodriguez in that Taylor Ward trade with the Angels. And, they're a B plus. I think that should be up to a A minus. I really like what the Baltimore Orioles are doing. Pete Alonso, a home run beast, a veteran in this infield. When you think about their infield, you got young guys like Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holliday, who by all means are really talented, but you need that veteran, right? And I mean, you can even talk about Jordan Westburg at third base. They're all young. And now Pete Alonso will bring in that veteran mentality, playoff experience too. That's a big thing. We saw them kind of get embarrassed in the playoffs a couple years ago. And then they really improved their pitching. Shane Baz, Chris Bassett, they re-signed Zach Eflin. They get Ryan Hesley, former Twin. Again, like, on a track here where that they should win at least 85 games. By the way, and it's just such a big stat because they only won 75 games last season. But 85 games is only 4 games above 500. It's only 4 games above 500. So until we talk about the full AL playoff picture, you don't even know if they're necessarily going to make the playoffs with this record. But I do think they're going to improve on the season, winning 85 games. And I do think we see a way more improved run differential, which was a minus 111 last season. But I'm yapping a little too much. I gotta speed things up. I thought it was gonna be a shorter episode, but I yapped too much. Appreciate everybody for watching. And then the final team here. The final team is the Tampa Bay Rays, 78 and 84. I'm being a little nice to them. Some could say, only winning one extra game when I could have had them lose way more games. But again, I think this division, and that's why I'm talking so much about this division, is because they are so interesting. They're so good. I could see legitimately at least those top 4 teams, maybe even Tampa Bay, making the playoffs, and I could probably make some good arguments for why that would happen. But the Tampa Bay Rays here, it's a little shorter of a list. Nick Martinez, Gavin Lux, Cedric Mullins, Steven Matz, those are kind of the big names of, who's coming into Tampa Bay. Key departures, though, there are a lot of key departures here. Brendan Lowe, Josh Lowe, Shane Baz, Mason Montgomery. So definitely with all of this, with all of these intriguing departures, because there are a lot of fan favorites, a lot of veterans, you're kind of putting it in for the youth. And now Gavin Lux comes out. That was a shock when he got signed over there. But I really like a Cedric Mullins for them. I like this Nick Martinez for them, and I think they're just building a very interesting culture here. And for a team that I think is not as good as those 4 teams ahead of them in their division, I still think they're building something good. And some of these, veterans that they moved on from, whether it was trades or just signings or releasings, I just think it was necessary. And I think I really like Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay had a very mid-season last season, winning what did they win? What did they win? What was golly? It went back to 2026 divisions. That's kind of funny. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Tampa Bay won 77 games last year. Yeah, so they did the opposite of what I think the Orioles are going to do, if that kind of puts it into some context. But overall, those are my AL East kind of predictions. I will try to go a little quicker through the rest of these divisions after this next division, because this next division is yours truly's division, your Minnesota Twins division. The AL Central comes up right now here, and the AL Central winner is going to be, in my opinion, the Detroit Tigers, winning 92 games, which is 5 additional games than last season, with them resulting then losing 70 games as well. The Kansas City Royals at second at 84 and 78. They win 2 additional games than they did last season. Cleveland, though, then takes a big drop off. They lose 13 more games than last season. They win only 75 games. They go 75 and 87. I think then the Chicago White Sox take a little bit of a leap. Just a little bit of a leap. They win 68 games. I think they don't lose 100 games again. I think they're building up something really good. They go 68 and 94, which leaves me to say my team, my Minnesota Twins. Yes, guys, I think we are in for a rough season. And why do I think that? Well, we could do a full episode on it. I'll probably touch on it during our live stream over there on Thursday for opening day. But the Minnesota Twins, I have winning 67 games and losing 95. But before you say, Mateo, what are you doing? This team won 70 games last season. I'm only having them lose 3 additional games. And for this team that we lose our starting pitcher. We lose our ace pitcher in Pablo Lopez. He's done for the season. We have no bullpen. Injuries always happen in this state of sports. We're seeing it with the Timberwolves and Wild right now. Anthony Edwards and Kirill Kaprizov have not been playing in over a week. Byron Buxton always seems to get injured. I think Joe Ryan's going to be dealt at the trade deadline. No idea about Royce Lewis. And now it's really just a developmental place here for your Minnesota Twins players. We're going to get to watch guys like Mick Abel and Luke Keeschel. I'm going to be really excited to see them develop. But when players are developing, it rarely happens that your team is going to have success as well. And that is why I have the Twins winning only 67 games. And be quiet. Be quiet, because I'm only having them lose three more games. I could have had them. I was thinking about having them only win 62 games and losing 100. I was legitimately thinking about that, but I'm having 67. They're going to win 67 games, 95 losses. Minnesota Twins. That's all I'm going to talk about for you. I'm not going to talk really. And by the way, I forgot. I had to mention this. Ready? Are you ready for this? For their grades in free agency. The White Sox, they got a C grade. They bring in a couple of these guys. They bring Acuna in. They bring Hayes, Kay, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and some guys. They don't really lose anybody except Lewis Roberts. But in general, they got some good draft picks. I think they're gonna be feisty, to maybe win 8 more games than last season. Maybe that's crazy. They do have a good Japanese pitcher coming in there. So they get a C grade. We're going to see all these other grades, right? The Nationals get a C grade. The Padres, C-, whatever. The Reds, the Rockies get a C-. We're going to talk about them. But, the Rockies are so bad, right? They got a C- grade. The Guardians, we could talk about them here. They did absolutely nothing. They lose Clase, which is going to be good for your I hate facing that guy. Right. So the Guardians get D+. Okay, right. The Athletics, who we know what's wrong with those Athletics, they're a D grade, right? The Angels are a D grade. And guess who is the only F grade? The Minnesota Twins could do the impossible. The only team that gets an F grade from ESPN is your Minnesota Twins. Who do they bring in? They bring in Josh Bell. They bring in Victor Caratini. They don't really lose anybody. We lose our president of baseball operations and our manager. We don't really do anything. And they're an F grade. They're one of the lowest team payrolls in the league. And just off of that, I could have had them winning 62 games. But as a Minnesota Twins fan, I'm going to be a little nice to them. And we have them only win 67 games, okay? Just saying. We talked about the Guardians kind of a little bit. Don't really have much to say about them. But now, I just don't think the Twins are also in any way, shape, or form to even compete with the Royals or the Tigers. I think the Royals are going to be dogs. They're going to be feisty. Are they going to win the division? No, I just think the Detroit Tigers are going to be in a really good position this year, especially because all the other teams are bad. But the Royals winning 84 games, I think that's really possible for sure. Again, that is only that's 2 additional games than last season. They didn't really bring in many players, but they were just so good last year. And I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to carry this team. Vinny Pasquantino, I think if their pitchers can actually get healthy as well, that's going to be a really good thing. But then, by the way, Minnesota, we just beat Boston 15-6 in spring training in our last spring training day. Let's go. There's our World Series for you. Detroit, A grade. They bring in Framber Valdez. Also, by the way, Justin Verlander, they re-signed Gleyber Torres. They don't lose anybody. They don't trade Tarek Skubal. And this team, who won the division last year, they didn't win the division. How did Cleveland win the division? Anyway, Detroit won 87 games last season. They were a feisty team in the playoffs. With the addition of Framber Valdez, so now you have 2 elite left-hand pitchers, Skubal and Valdez. Why? I mean, on an offense that is pretty good, nothing crazy, but they're still really good. Who says they can't win 92 games? That's only 5 additional games than last season. 92-70 is your record. My predicted record for the Detroit Tigers. Let me know, you guys, your thoughts here on the AL Central predictions. Do you think I'm being too harsh on my Twins? But I gotta keep reminding you. That's only 3 less games than last season. As we wrap up the AL, we get the AL West here leading off with the Seattle Mariners. That's 89-69. That's 6 more games than last season. Yes, I do think they're going to take a bit of a jump. They're still not going to win 90 games, but I think, they're going to still have a good season whatsoever. Hold up. That was a miss. That's not +6. That should not be +6. That should be a -1 because they won, as you can see right here. Sorry. They won 90 games last season. Don't know what happened there. Excuse me for that. But anyway, the predicted record is right as I'm looking at my other spreadsheet. Sorry about that. I have Texas at 2 at 83-79. As you can see, then you have Houston still kind of above 500, but they lose 5 more games than last season. Again, they didn't really have a great free agency. They lost Valdez. They lost a couple pieces here. The A's at 78-84. I do think they were starting to be competitive towards the end of last season. The end of the season, 76-86. So now 78-84. That's only, them only winning 2 additional games. So that's not totally crazy. And then the Angels, I had them winning an additional 3 games. I think they're going to try to put something together. I think Mike Trout will stay a little healthier than last year, or maybe he'll get dealt for a good package. But the Angels, they were 72-90 last season. Let's bump it up 3 wins. And in general here, I think the only team I think this is what we're going to do here for the remainder of the team. I just wanted to talk about those first 2 divisions because I think they're the most intriguing, especially because we're going to see the Orioles on Thursday for opening day. Then obviously your Minnesota Twins are in there. But I'm just going to talk about the team now I kind of really wanted to talk about. And that really in this division is the Mariners, who got an A- grade in ESPN's kind of grade book. They were able to re-sign Josh Naylor. They didn't bring in anything, but they also didn't necessarily lose anything. And so they lose Jorge Polanco, who you can argue what he meant to this team. Eugenio Suarez, losing that is going to hurt a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. Mitch Garver's old. Harry Ford wasn't fitting their timeline. And then the pitcher they left, it's not the worst. I really think this team did not lose any of its depth. You could argue Eugenio Suarez, but other than that, I think this team is almost the same. Almost the same team that won 90 games last season, that got a first-round bye. And I just really think they're really talented. I think their pitching is going to get better. And obviously, also, guys, think about this. It's a new season, which means players are going to hopefully develop. So it's not necessarily just based off of these free agencies. I'm just using these grades and stuff as a way to talk about it, of how to kind of organize it and talk about it. But you also have these players who you got to remember what they did last season. I mean, and that's why I keep showing these records and these stats here. They scored 766 runs. They only gave up 694. Sure, that was only a differential of +72, but it was the second best in the division. Nowhere close to the -164 compared of the Angels, or the -84 of the A's, or the +21 of the lucky Astros, who that team I might hate them the most. They're expected 88 wins with the stats they were putting up, and they did better than that. It shows that they're a really good team, and you got to remember this. Despite, not, in my opinion, I don't think they should have an A- grade, but overall, I do think the being able to keep these key players, I think is really great. They do grab Rob Ruff-Snyder as well, former Twin there. You got to see a lot of former Twins just kind of bouncing off the walls. It's kind of sad. A bunch of free agencies here on all these different teams. But anyway, the Rangers, the Rangers I do want to take a quick peek at, because I'm kind of confused why I have them at second. And if I'm being honest, I don't totally know what they did here. Okay, they got, oh wait, Yeah, no, they added some great players, guys. Oh my goodness, yeah. They added a lot of pitchers. I don't agree. Yeah, and I remember I'm looking at my notes here. I don't agree with the C plus rating whatsoever. This should be at least a B rating. I mean, you get Mackenzie Gore, who's now going to finally get a chance to compete. You know, he was stuck on the Nationals for a while. Brendan Nimmo's he's a dog. Danny Jansen gets to come over there. Jacob Junis, like they got a lot of people. Sure, they got rid of some people. They lost Eldos Garcia, Jonah Heim, Tyler Mahle, John Gray, Sean Armstrong, Patrick Corbin, Marcus Simeon. They lost a lot, but I think they kind of got better in a way. I'm just saying. I think Mackenzie Gore he's going to be really good for this team. And, you know, the Simeon Nimmo trade was kind of an interesting trade to unpack. You know, when we talk a little bit about the Mets, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in general, I think I just think in in theory here, I mean, when you look at the Astros, they didn't grab much. I mean, there's going to be a lot riding on this Japanese guy who I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Um, but other than that, they lost a lot of players as well. They lost Jacob Melton. They lost Jesus Santos, Valdez, as we already talked about. So yeah, I think as I'm thinking about this, these predictions kind of make a little bit more sense. But yeah, that is my AL West predictions, and I don't think okay, I do NL next. So let's go right here to the NL East, starting off with the Philadelphia Phillies coming in at 95 and 67. They actually are having them lose one more game than they did last season. Then you got the New York Mets, a very surprising team for some people, maybe. You might be thinking, wow, the Mets, really? I mean, they lost Pete Alonso. They lost Brendan Nimmo. Hold on. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. The Atlanta Braves, I think they're going to have a big bounce back season. They were just, by the way, riddled by injuries. That's why, I'm going to have them win 9 additional games than last season. I have them winning 85 games. They go 85 and 77. That's their 2 games. They fall 2 games back of the Mets, which could be interesting. And then the bottom half of this, kind of the bottom 2/5 of this division is kind of garbage. I'm going to have the Marlins lose 9 more games than they did last season. They fall to 70 and 92. We always find these random typos, my bad. And then at 62 and 100, I think this is my worst team in the league, the Washington Nationals. We're not going to talk about the Marlins. We're not going to talk about the Nationals. We are going to talk about these top 3 teams, though, in the NL East. This is just kind of a crazy stat. Phillies, they won their division last season. I think they're going to do it again. We'll talk about why. But the Atlanta Braves were riddled by injuries. I mean, Acuna was out forever. I mean, we're talking about an MVP caliber player. He was out for a good chunk of the season. As you can see, they ended the season at 7-3. They were playing real well, and they finally got that point differential to only a -10. So with all this being said, I think the Atlanta Braves are going to definitely make a bounce back, a return in these standings here, but obviously not going to be good enough for the top 2 spots in the NL East, because obviously I think that is definitely going to go to the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. Let's talk about those teams a little bit here. But first, the Atlanta Braves, that's just a quick look at their free agency. They didn't bring in a lot of people, but that's kind of not how I'm analyzing and kind of creating this prediction off of. It's just mostly to do with that. If they remain healthy, I think they go back to a top contender in the MLB. Obviously, I don't know if they're necessarily going to make the playoffs. We'll take a look at our playoff predictions in a little bit later. But the Atlanta Braves, that's a quick look there. But now let's go to that second spot in the in the New York Mets. And the New York Mets, I mean, they had a great offseason, if you do ask me. A B+ rating, on ESPN. Key additions. Let me just name all of these additions right here. Freddie Peralta, Bo Bichette, Jorge Polanco, Marcus Simeon, Luis Robert Jr., Devin Williams, And the list can continue. Sure, they lost Alonso. Sure, they lost Nimmo. Sure, they lost McNeil. But other than that, I mean, other guys like Tyler Rogers, Sterling Marte, Acuna. I just think when you take a look at the additions, when you take a look at the departures, I think you got a better product in the additions, and that's why I have them here at the second spot. I have the winning 87 games. That's 4 additional games than last season, but obviously it's not going to be good enough for the number 1 seed because the Philadelphia Phillies are still an elite team. I can't just dethrone them right away here. I mean, injuries, you never know what might happen. The Phillies, they got a B- grade on ESPN. They didn't really do anything. They just kind of re-signed players, but they did get Adolis Garcia, which we don't do. That guy is so fun to watch for sure. They lost Harrison Bader. They lost Ranger Suarez. But other than that, they kept a lot of their team in control. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see these Phillies play. I think I have them, only winning 95 games, which is 1 less than last season. But overall, again, those are my NL East standings. You got the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, the Marlins, and of course, the Washington Nationals. We got 2 more divisions left here. Yes, I guess this is going to be a longer episode. That's all right for sure. I'm going to try to speed through the rest of these NL teams because obviously I'm an AL more focused guy since of the Twins. But in the NL Central, you got the Cubs winning the division at 93 and 69. So yeah, you got the Chicago Cubs winning 93 games, losing 69 of them. They actually, and you said, well, Mateo, the Cubs, are they really that good? Well, we'll talk a little bit about their signings, but that's only winning 1 additional game than last season. And the only reason they didn't win the division last season was because the team that I have in second place had a great season. And I have the Milwaukee Brewers falling to second. They lose 10 more games than they did last season. I think they were kind of a fluke. That's a hot take, but that's what I'm going to stand by that hot take. And the Milwaukee Brewers are going to only win 87 games, which is still by far a really good season. 87 and 75. And then at third spot, we got Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates. I've always been high on the Pirates. I'm always high on the Pirates. Every season I'm high on the Pirates. I thought about having them make the playoffs, but I think that's just a little too steep for now. But I will have them finish right at 500, 81 and 81. They win 10 additional games than last season. And then at fourth spot, you got Elly De La Cruz and the Cincinnati Reds at 80 and 82, losing 3 more games than last season. And then the St. Louis Cardinals, they're kind of a little bit of a mystery if I'm going to be honest. They didn't do too much in the offseason. I'm going to have them finish in the fifth spot, 70 and 90. They lose 8 additional games than last season. But I want to take a little quick peek, a little peek-see at the Chicago Cubs because I'm super high on the Cubs. They bring in Alex Bregman. They re-sign Shota Amaga, the pitcher. I'm sorry, I probably butchered his name, but he's a great pitcher. And then a bunch of relievers as well, which is great. They did lose Kyle Tucker. He was just kind of a rental player. He went to the Dodgers, as we know. They lose Justin Turner, Brad Keller, but again, I think they still have a really solid group of guys. Their outfield really was deep as well. So sure, Kyle Tucker, you're gonna lose your right fielder who's gonna hit a lot of home runs, but Pete Crow Armstrong just got re-signed as well to a multi-year deal. Actually, when I'm recording this, he, as you can see right here, 17 hours ago, sources, Cubs and Crow Armstrong are finalizing a new deal. So they're putting him into their final plan. So he's going to kind of be that main outfielder. So now you're not going to really have to share it. He's going to be that main guy in center field. So it's going to be really good. I'm really excited. They got a B rating here, as you can see on ESPN. I'm really excited. A team that when I was looking back at these standings here, it's kind of I was surprised to see that they had won 92 games. They finished the season great. They did make the playoffs last season. And they had an interesting little playoff run there for sure. They were a plus 144 too. That was a really surprising stat. Really taking a look here that the Reds were a plus 35. That's crazy. And then the Milwaukee Brewers won 97 games last season. I'm gonna stand by that. I think it was a fluke, but I would not be surprised again if they go back to back. But I just think it's the Cubs' year. I think it's the Cubs' year. As you can see, I'm always super high on the Pirates as well. I don't know why that is. I just really like Paul Skeens as well. Maybe that has something to do with it. And the Pittsburgh Pirates here, I mean, I think they had a solid offseason. They got a B grade. Brendan Lowe came in here. Gregory Soto came in. They didn't really lose anybody, which is great. They got Ryan O'Hearn, Marcelo Ozuna. But other than that, um, it's just like I'm just gonna kind of watch and wait. I think they were in the run. They were in the runs, kind of, they were trying to go big, as it says here, reportedly offering Kyle Schwarber a big deal. They also tried to make a big run at Eugenio Suarez, trying to get a big power hitter because they hit 31 fewer home runs than any other team last season. So they were trying to, fix that. And I do think if they would have landed one of those bigger power guys, I would have considered for sure making, them like 83 and 79. That was like what the Cincinnati Reds were last season. And they still made the playoffs that way. But other than that, the Pirates, I still think they're gradually increasing. I think Paul Skeens is going to continue to break records that we've never seen before. He's one of the best pitchers in the league, young pitchers. He's super young as well, super talented. The Brewers, I don't think I'm going to talk really much about them. Let me just scan the Brewers a little bit. I do think this division had a really good offseason in general. I think they're going to be definitely better than the AL Central if you're comparing them with that. They just re-signed some players. Not really any big deals, big name deals. They do lose Freddie Peralta. They do lose Jose Quintina. They do lose Rhys Hoskins. So they lose some of these older veterans. We'll see, though, what happens. I think they're going to probably mostly kind of turn to the 6'7" guy, Jacob Mistrowski, who looks like he's going to be really, really, really good for sure. He somehow even made the All-Star game after only pitching like 4 or 5 games. Absolutely insane. And so, yeah, that's going to be my NL Central kind of a recap of who I have. My NL Central predictions: Cubs, Brewers, Pirates, Reds, and the Cardinals. And finally, the division that might ruin baseball just because of some other reasons like the Dodgers, it's the NL West. And I have the LA Dodgers winning 105 games, only losing 57 games, followed by the Padres at 93 and 69, which, probably in any other division would win the division, but you got the Dodgers, okay? And by the way, I love Ohtani. Don't like the Dodgers. I don't like what they're doing for baseball, maybe even forcing a lockdown. We might not even get baseball in 2027, but I like Ohtani. I want him to become the GOAT, and I think he personally is the GOAT already. Just saying that. But so I like Ohtani, but I don't like what the Dodgers are doing, but I have to give them 105 and 57. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. The D-backs, I think, have a great bounce back year, winning 86 games, only losing 76. That's a +6. Getting they only won 80 games last season, so winning 6 additional games. San Francisco Giants at 83 and 79. I think Logan Webb will take the next step. I think, they had a couple key free agency signings that, off the top of my head, I can't think of. I believe they brought in Luis Ariz. I mean, what do they get? They got a B. They bring in Ariz, Molly, Harrison Bader. So a lot of former Twins. They didn't really lose anybody as well. So that's the big thing. And then the Colorado Rockies, they are my worst team. They win 48 games and they win 48 games and lose 114. That's going to kind of be what I have here. I think that's my worst team. And then the second worst team is the Nationals. And the third worst team are your Minnesota Twins. Not going to talk about the Rockies. Just got to tell you, for these Rockies here, Rocky fans, you have money. You have money, Rockies. Can you try to do something? Instead, you bring in Willie Castro, Eddie Julian, and Jose Quintina. So a bunch of former Twins and Midwesterners that really, I'm sorry. Willie Castro, I feel like I'd take you back, Willie. I don't know why we had to sell on you, Willie Castro. I really liked you. Eddie Julian, kind of same thing. I mean, it's understandable, but now they get to play, with the Rockies, and I'm sorry. That's going to be diabolical. But for the the Giants, I feel like ESPN was really high on the Giants for some reason. They gave them, a B rating. It's fine. But then the Padres here, we're going to talk about the Dodgers last. We're going to do the Padres next because they lose Dylan Cease. They lose Luis Ariz. They lose Ryan O'Hearn. They don't grab many players. They just re-sign Michael King, and that's it. They got a C- grade. But for a team that won 90 games last season, I think they've got to be a little better. Okay, so I'm just gonna give them a slim, a few slim extra wins. Have them win 3 additional games, so that's even maybe another. I don't even know if they swept the Rockies. Maybe that's all it takes, and that's what for those 2 to 3 games for teams that I give 2 to 3 extra wins. Maybe that is just one extra series win that you didn't have last season. Or for the Twins here, I have them losing 3 more games. Maybe that's getting swept by a team that you probably should have gotten swept by last year, but you didn't, in a way like that, if that makes sense. So that 2-1, if it's a +1 or -1, a +2 or -2, a +3 or -3, that could all just be on one series, and that shows you how it's really close for sure. I just want to highlight, before I talk about the Padres a little bit more, giving the Rockies 5 additional wins is crazy, by the way. I just got to say that. I had them 48 and 14. They were 43 and 119 last season. That's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. But no, I have them going 48 and 114. Whatever. San Diego, yeah, but I do think they win 3 additional games. Again, that's what the Dodgers did last season. So, I do think the Dodgers cooled off to, in the middle of the season. But I just don't think that can be the case when you just, when you, do whatever you did, because you just brought in a crazy amount of players. And the way that this team, the ESPN writes it is just, I'm going to read it for you. Okay? Ready? Here we go. So, their left fielders hit .229 with 19 home runs. Fine. Sign Kyle Tucker to a 4-year, $240 million deal that might break baseball. He'll play right field with Teoscar Hernandez moving to left, by the way. Their closer situation was a bit of a mess by the playoffs. Fine. Sign Edwin Diaz for $69 million on top of the $72 million for Tanner Scott a year ago. Finally, do you believe in good luck charms and sentimentality? Oh gosh, I can't read. Fine. Bring back both World Series heroes in Rojas and Hernandez for a combined $10 million. All that, and the Dodgers payroll is still down about $1 million from 2025, according to Fangraphs. Geez, imagine if they tried a little harder to win. Yeah. You bring in Kyle Tucker, Edwin Diaz, you bring back Miguel Rojas and Enrique Hernandez. You only lose Conforto, Banda, and Kirby Yates. I just don't get it. And this is why. I think there's going to be a lockdown. You need a salary cap. I want Ohtani to succeed. But he can succeed without all these players around him. They are paying these players so much money. And they just keep doing it. And I've had enough. I've enjoyed these 2 World Series wins. But what is stopping? The Dodgers from winning 105 games? By the way, just gotta say this. Just make sure I mention this. It's not even the all-time MLB season record for wins. That is 116. I would not be shocked if that happens. But I'm only just hear that word, only. I am only giving the Dodgers 12 additional wins. 12 additional wins than last season. on a team that just went back-to-back in the World Series. It's just crazy. It's just crazy, but those are my NL West standings. The Dodgers, man, are they good. I mean, I like watching them play. I was cheering for them because I wanted Ohtani to win. And congratulations to Ohtani. If Ohtani wasn't there, I wouldn't like the Dodgers, okay? I don't like the Dodgers. It's kind of the same thing with the Yankees. It's just because I like Ohtani, okay? So I just wanted to clear that up. But in summary, the NL West, the Dodgers at 105 and 57. The San Diego Padres at 93 and 69. The Arizona Diamondbacks, 86 and 76. I do wanted to just mention this. The Diamondbacks, they bring in Merrill Kelly, Nolan Arendo, Carlos Santana. Not a lot of great people, but I think, again, health is going to be a big part in this. The Giants at 83 and 79. That's fourth. And then in fifth, it's the Colorado Rockies. I just feel bad that the worst team in years, in decades, the Colorado Rockies, and the best team in years and in decades, the Dodgers, all have to play in the same division. It's just kind of funny. It's just kind of ironic. But yeah, those wrap up my MLB season record predictions for each team. But we're not done. We still got the playoffs. So the playoff seeding starting off here in the AL playoff picture. If all of this happens, you got the Red Sox at 1, the Tigers at 2, the Mariners at 3 as your division winners, and then the 3 wildcard spots will be in order 4, 5, and 6. The Blue Jays, Yankees, and Orioles. 4 teams out of the 5 teams from the AL East would make the playoffs if my predictions hold. That's crazy. 7, 8, and 9, they just missed the playoffs here. It's the Royals, 1 game back, Rangers, 2 games back, and the Astros, 3 games back. For the NL. Oh, wait, we got AL playoff predictions. Okay, let's do AL playoff predictions. Wildcard round, wildcard game 1. I had the Orioles upsetting the Mariners. Yeah, I know, that's crazy. But I think Alonso and these key additions can help for sure. Now I got the Blue Jays beating the Yankees because we know the Yankees and Aaron Judge won't perform in the big moments, and the Blue Jays are too good. In the ALDS, however, Orioles will not have enough. They're going to lose to the Red Sox, and the Tigers will beat the Blue Jays. So we have a 1-2 seed matchup in the ALCS where the Boston Red Sox advance to the World Series over Tarek Skubal and the Detroit Tigers. So those are my AL playoff predictions. And now we move over to the NL playoff picture here. So if all this, remains, you got the Dodgers at 1, obviously, the Phillies at 2, the Cubs at 3, the Padres at 4, the Mets at 5. Yes, the Mets sneak in, and yes, the Brewers still make the playoffs at 6. Again, 7 through 9 just missed the playoffs. At 7, you have the D-backs, 1 game back. The Braves at 8, 2 games back, and then at 4 games back, you got the Giants. So that just kind of for you to put your team in perspective. If your team really wasn't mentioned, it means you weren't even close to a playoff spot whatsoever. But the NL playoff predictions here, I got the Cubs beating the Brewers in the wildcard round, and then I got the Padres beating the Mets. Then you got in the NLDS, you got the Dodgers beating the Padres. Maybe it's a little competitive. I just think the Dodgers, are going to win. And then, yes, I'm going to give the upset. I think the Cubs, I'm really high on the Cubs right now. The Cubs beat the Phillies in the NLDS. And then in the NLCS, the Cubs, they're just no match for the powerhouse. The mitochondria, if you're talking a little bit of biology. I don't know why that just... mitochondria. I don't know why that just popped into my mind. That was I'm in chemistry this year. Not even in biology. But the powerhouse, the LA Dodgers, advance to the World Series where they will play the Boston Red Sox. And in the World Series, the LA Dodgers three-peat and force a lockout for the 2027 season. And let me explain a little bit about this. So I got the Dodgers beating the Red Sox in the World Series, and I just gotta, I keep alluding to this lockout. Basically, all these money rules, whether it's TV, player salary, coach salary, all this stuff, all these rules come to an end every couple of years, and they gotta get renewed, basically, by all these owners and stuff. That's gonna come up here in 2027. And I think if the Dodgers, by far, for sure, if the Dodgers win you know, again, which I think they're going to do, if that happens, people are going to say, okay, we got to even out our league somehow. And the answer that should have been fixed years and years ago is adding a salary cap. However, if you have been a part of these, if you've heard about these lockouts that always happen when, these owners are trying to figure out the new rules, they take forever. And I think in order for the MLB to switch this, if they switch this, it is going to take months. Therefore, either shortcutting the MLB season, so it might not be 162 games, it might just be like a 70-game season or 50-game season or less. Or secondly, they're just going to cancel the season altogether and train for 2028. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. But in general, that's going to close my predictions. I got the Dodgers over the Boston Red Sox. Let me know, guys, what my hottest prediction was, and what prediction you think could happen the most other than this one, because I think Dodgers winning the World Series, that's pretty much a lock. But we shall see. Maybe all these players get season-ending injuries, and then we got a new championship. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this. Let me know again your thoughts. And thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate everybody. And now we go back to kind of our normal little slide setup here. That these ones were kind of I threw them together and kind of Photoshop and kind of made them a little different. I wanted to test a little something, but this is our normal little slide setup here, and I like it a little bit better. It makes it a little more formal. But appreciate everybody for watching. Coming up next here on Inside the Zone with Mateo, as I already stated at the beginning of the show, this is kind of the schedule for opening week. We already did, the MLB predictions, but tomorrow, stay tuned for my recorded fantasy baseball draft. I will maybe do some more episodes with it throughout the season, but I always like to do like a draft for sure to just kind of give you guys my opinions on like who I would take and stuff like that. And then Thursday live stream, pregame, postgame, and then live play-by-play and reaction, all coming your way on Thursday. Appreciate everybody for watching. We got daily shorts trying to be pumped out. Again, there's not going to be an episode on Thursday because I'm going to be, because basically what I do is I do an episode Tuesday and Thursday every week. No episode on Thursday because of the live stream. And then, yeah, we got a weekly rebuild coming out on Saturday. It's going to be another Madden rebuild. It's going to be actually the last one. So basically, if you don't know, one day a week, I like to do a little gaming video. And from January 1st all the way through the end of March here, so March 28th, every single week, we've done a 5-year rebuild. And so we're going to close this series up here with a Madden rebuild, the 9-time poll championship champion. Madden. If you don't understand anything, go to any of those videos in my channel. You can really go to you can go to my channel. You can go to really you videos and click on like the NFL worst team. Let's rebuild them. Or you could go to playlists and you could go to where's our weekly rebuilds? There we go. So here you can see weekly rebuilds. You see the Browns, right? There's tons of views on these ones as well. We did NHL, Twins one. We did all this stuff. We did Nationals one recently. But you can go check out those if you don't understand really what I'm saying at all. Apologize. Appreciate everybody for watching, though. Kingdom Competitors will come out Saturday as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to keep God first because he's the most important thing in your lives. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a great day. Baseball's back, everybody. Baseball is back.